Okay, hi. So it's Carrie Johnston, and I'm filming today on the traditional territory of Champagne and Ajax First Nations in beautiful Dakwakata-Haines Junction. And my guests today are...
Hey, I'm Jayden Soroka, and I'm with Outpost31, and the other guy.
I'm Neil, and yeah, we're coming to you from the traditional territory of the Kwantlen First Nation and the Onkwatchin Council, and yeah, we're Outpost 31.
Okay, so what is Outpost 31?
I'll take it. I mean, we're essentially a media production company. We do a variety of things, but we kind of operate and create content and media. Certainly Jayden plays in a few different realms, things like VR and 360, but we also do traditional film and television and do kind of corporate online video, that kind of stuff.
And how long you guys been operating for?
We've been going since 2018 officially. But yeah, Jayden and Dave and I have been working together since 2010, I think, is the first time we worked together. And Dave and I actually grew up together. Our other partner is Dave Hamlin, who's not here. And Dave and I grew up together in the Yukon. So we've been making films together since we were 13, I think.
Right on. What are you guys learning about your business model in the midst of this global pandemic? What's it doing to your business?
I mean, I think being digital and working in a digital field has...
It's weird.
Over to Jayden. Neil, you froze there on us.
Yeah, no, I think just, yeah, we work in a digital field, and COVID-19 and everything happening has pushed digital into a new, I think, necessity in terms of the world. And so we've actually been seeing a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity. And because of everything happening, I think we've just been able to actually accelerate specifically our digital formats and thinking of XR content creation. But we're getting calls every week. It's been kind of nuts, actually, how much work there is right now.
You just mentioned the term XR. What is that?
Sorry, XR is a catch-all for extended reality. So it's catching virtual reality, augmented reality, 360, anything that really is immersive, and then has kind of an experiential kind of experience involved is now being called XR. Yeah.
So I guess that's got like a whole new opportunity in terms of digitizing arts in this way, where we're not necessarily able to be present at the same performances and live events like we used to be. So there's the opportunity for emerging technology to kind of bring us into the experience in a different way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, we're seeing lots of places are just doing, like for theater, that are doing a multi-camera shoot, which is a very, classical way of taking content and producing it for a large audience. But immersive tech is really creating an opportunity to feel like a spectator, to feel like an actual audience member of an experience. So rather than just watching the screen, you feel like you're actually physically there, witnessing a performance, or in the gallery, or on a film set. Like, the immersive technology is creating a different experience for people, for sure. Yeah.
And are there applications where you're applying it that you can share an example like that in the territory here now?
I'm working right now with borealsoul on a project. So we're taking their theatrical kind of performance and reworking it into a sphere that exists within XR. So we're working on a 360-degree stereoscopic, so stereo, so 3D video, and basically choreographing some movements around that space. But what's cool about it is that because it's video, we can push the boundaries of what they've done before, talking about doing compositing, so doing things that are a bit more like visual effects, magical, out of world, out of body experiences. Because it's not theater anymore, we can push the boundaries of what's being done visually for theater, using visual effects in that sphere, but using their dance, and we're working with their musicians to build a track and Foley work. So it's kind of combining their classical skill sets of stage and finding a way to bring it into a 360 environment, which has been really enjoyable. And we're going to be releasing that next year, actually. So, yeah.
That's really neat. I mean, the Yukon's such a magical place, so it seems really cool to start to get to integrate the magic of the Yukon into how we perform and create like artistic medium. It's neat.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What are you learning about Yukoners and your clients at this time?
I would just say resiliency, pretty cool to see people persevering, especially other small businesses, and cool to see community support, for small businesses. And so, yeah, that's been really great to see.
You guys have a bit of a team that you're leading. What are you learning about leadership right now?
I'm learning about patience. Um, uh, I like to work fast and get things done, but during this time in the world, everything is slowed down. If we need equipment, if we need special technical skills, we can't bring people up to help us. It's all being digital. So I think we've had to, it's lots of opportunity, but we've also had to be patient and slow down and really consider what we're doing next and why, given where the world's at, for sure. Yeah.
I know I've seen you guys filming before, and you're always super safety conscious when you're out there. And I imagine it just like adds a whole nother level of ensuring that you've got your COVID protocols in place on top of your standard sort of just work safe for the film industry.
Yeah, it's been interesting. We've been lucky, me personally have been lucky to do a lot of field work just because projects have continued in the north, but like Jayden said, it's been difficult or impossible to bring certain people in. So there's actually been Yuconners that have benefited from that. But yeah, it brings on all these protocols, we're flying in small aircraft or, going into remote communities, and you want to be conscious and, in some cases filming with elders and filming with people that may be in those high risk things. So I think luckily there's a lot of resources to draw upon. So we have local and regional resources, but also just through the guilds and unions throughout kind of the entertainment world, there's been a lot of work to draft kind of protocols. So yeah, just things about hand sanitization, mask wearing, physical distancing, moving shoots outdoors, all that kind of stuff. So it's been a challenge, but yeah, I think like you said, having a safety mindset was helpful to move into that. And it just, takes a bit more time. It takes a bit more money. It takes, some thought process, but it was good to see we're able to, continue production and continue making content. So.
That's great. Taking all that you've learned in the last, 8 months or so and a lifetime, what are you kind of thinking? What's your trajectory look like going forward? Where do you see the industry going here in the territory? Where's your business situated in that?
Yeah, I think, it's been about growth. Jayden brings a really interesting side, and that's kind of industry wide, that push into XR. I think locally there's also been, opportunities for that through the IT push in the territory, but also traditional content creators, film, television, online content, music video producers, all kinds of stuff. There's a growing industry here, and it's exciting to be a part of. We're certainly hoping to take advantage of, there has been this pause in production for a lengthy time. Film and television were some of the first things to shut down. So there will be a bit of a vacuum for content, and we're hoping to take advantage of that and maybe get some of our content into the marketplace and onto some platforms. So we've got a really exciting project that blends some things. Jayden is directing a film we're co-producing with the NFB that we're developing this winter, and hopefully we'll be going into production with that. And that mixes animation and documentary and storytelling. And so yeah, we're optimistic. I think the winter will be a lot of things, and we're hoping that we can just kind of push forward and keep going and get some Yukon stories out to the world.
Jayden, anything to add to that?
Well, I think it's important. We are developing XR, but the reality of XR, it's hard to monetize. The market is still developing, right? The spaces to which we can look to create content for and have audiences for is it's great. It's out there. It's still quite small compared to television. And so, as Neil put, we're also really excited to be working in more of a traditional sense as well, focusing on film. And I mean, we really are looking at TV series and feature length films. That is where we see our growth being the most, I think, exciting. And so we have done the commercial work. We really are leaning much heavier now into more of the narrative constructs of looking at TV series and film. Partly because Neil was in BC, I've been in Saskatchewan, and from my experience in Saskatchewan, we saw when the TV series came into the prairies, that's when our industry grew to a place where it was stabilized. We had a full-time working crew year round. And at the end of that success period, we had 2 crews working full-time. So I think our interest as a company is finding ways to grow our capacity in the north in a meaningful way that's going to contribute to the economy and to a full-time crew being able to work. And part of that is bringing new technologies in. So we're doing some work with motion capture suits. looking at virtual production, which has been really popularized with the recent show Mandalorian, where they've changed how we do production, right? They're using tools now to do real-time visual effects in a way that is way better to film it live than it is to go into visual effects and do it later on a computer. So we're just looking at what's happening in the world and how we can integrate these things maybe in the North in a way that's meaningful, but also allows Neil, myself, Dave, and other companies who want to produce content at that caliber to do it in a way in the North that we don't have to leave, and we can actually have the tools, have the infrastructure locally to do something really, really amazing that's never been done before. But it takes time to get there. And so we're slowly working towards that, obviously. Yeah.
I guess we have lots of reality TV shows that have been like filmed here in the North, but have we ever had a narrative TV series filmed here?
Yeah, there's certainly been episodes. I had the pleasure of working on an episode of Murdoch Mysteries that filmed up in Dawson City. Yeah, so there has been, a variety of things. Daniel Jank had a program, Northern Town, that was a mini series on CBC that he was a writer and producer on. Carol Geddes had a couple seasons of a great show on APTN that was called Legends of the Sunrock. I forget the full title, the full name. Yeah, so there have been some local ones. There have been a number of things from outside. Yeah, so it's funny. It certainly ebbs and flows, and there have been peaks and valleys. But yeah, hopefully there can be more content made by Yuconners. Yeah.
Yeah, like Jayden, what you're sort of saying, just getting that like consistent block so you can build up that talent and nurture and mentor and have that consistency in order to build up the industry here.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things is if you don't have a consistent, obviously, opportunity for people, once the film stops and there's no more film opportunities, they leave, right? And so it happened in Saskatchewan when the industry shut down there, when the government took away all the tax incentives. Every one of my colleagues left the province. They were all working elsewhere now because there wasn't any work, right? And it took us almost 20 years to build up enough capacity to have 2 working full crews in Saskatchewan, which is a similar, the BC is a whole nother beast, right? BC is, we can never compare to BC, but Saskatchewan is a small city that has a small crew base and small infrastructure, but it was able to do some pretty amazing things like Corner Gas and some really amazing films in its heyday. And yeah, so I think I'm just looking at how can we have a similar effect on the North, right? Using kind of a model that worked in a small demographic of the prairies film industry. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, it takes a lot of work, but we're doing our best as one company. We are doing our best to move, obviously, the pendulum in our favor in the North, but it just takes a lot of time and effort. Yeah.
Are you guys picking up any new skills, like either professionally or personally, to kind of help advance where your business is going?
Yeah, we were really lucky to participate in the Pivot program that was run through, Yukon University and the Innovation Center. So yeah, that was really good. There was some much needed, business skill development and that kind of thing. We're all filmmakers first, and we kind of have stumbled into running a company and running a business, and it's kind of been haphazard a little bit. So it was really great to do that program, really take a bigger picture view of what's going on in the overall marketplace, both in Canada and internationally, and then see, how can we best look at our business, look at our revenue stream, look at our projections and costs and all that stuff, really roll up our sleeves and do a little more kind of business planning and some strategic planning, especially with the pandemic in mind. So that was really great. That was, I think it was good for all of us to take a more kind of business person approach to it. We've always been kind of filmmakers first in our mindset. And so it was really good to take an entrepreneurial approach and more kind of grounded business approach to our company and how we should set our goals and move forward. So yeah, that was really good.
That's fantastic to hear. It is so many entrepreneurs took advantage of that program, and I think those that did are seeing a lot of opportunity going forward because of it.
Yeah, and about this, like the National Film Board, we've been working on this project, this animation with those guys, and a big part of that film is us integrating motion capture into our pipeline. So motion capture is where you wear a suit, and as you move, it captures your physical movement in geometry, so in a 3D space. We did use motion capture for the short film that was released last year called The Provider, which is what our next film is based off of. But we use motion capture data that I had access to online. So the nice thing is this time around, we have the suit in the north. We've been developing our own workflow around that suit. And now I can work with performers locally to actually perform the exact movements we need for that character in that moment. So it brings in this whole nother level of accuracy, but as well as creative direction around performance. And it's something that we're working with theater companies with, and Boreal and this 360 video are also using the motion capture suit. And it really will bring us into a different caliber, I think, of creation in terms of animation, because motion capture is a standard across the board everywhere else. And it's the first time we've had access in the north. So yeah, it's an exciting time for us in that.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
What advice do you guys have for emerging entrepreneurs, whether it's, you know, in film and sound or television or whatever, or beyond?
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, film and sound, I'd like the film industry in general, be prepared to work long hours. Yeah, be prepared for a competitive industry. There's the classic saying, you're never as good as you're only as good as your last film, which is, you know, more true in kind of Hollywood, but certainly, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's a rat race. There's a lot of competition in the industry, and yeah, you're always kind of competing and for funding or for projects or clients, and so yeah, be ready to do the work. It's not all glamour and, you know, cameras and lights and movie stars. It's a lot of dirt and mud and hard work.
Any sort of main like aha moments for you guys where your worldview shifted a little bit because of the pandemic? New ways of thinking?
I think my aha moment was that work isn't the most important thing. I think Neil and I and Dave, we all work really hard. And when we were forced to kind of be, you know, quarantine, and you find really quickly the things that are important to you. And I'll be honest, work wasn't a low portion of that bar, lower than I thought it would be, right? But that time allowed me to consider what things are important in life. And obviously community was, and I lost my community because of the quarantine and all these things. But yeah, my reality was that like work is, I'm really blessed to be in the north doing what I do, and I love what I do. It's not easy, as Neil said. There's a lot of administration work. There's a lot of things that you need to do to be creative that aren't creative. So much sometimes that you do so much of it that you no longer have any juice left to be creative with. And that's something to be aware of, is that it takes a lot of work to own your own business, especially in the creative world. But yeah, what I realized is, like, I think the three of us need to also have a life a bit more, you know, and focus on other things rather than just the next project. And we've worked really hard. We've had some success, and I think it's also time for us to enjoy some of the success and not just be so eager to kill ourselves in the next thing, but maybe just enjoy where we're at currently. So yeah.
Neil, same for you, or anything to add there?
Yeah, I think Jayden said it good. We're learning to say no, and that's a good piece of advice for people too. You know, in the gig economy and in our kind of lifestyle, it's always you're clamoring for that next gig, and I think sometimes it's good to take a step back, to take a breath. You know, self-care, you know, mental health. It's good to be conscious of all those things, and really, yeah, you need to fill the well if you want to be creative and create stuff. So yeah, I think being more mindful of that work-life balance and that kind of stuff, yeah, is really important. So yeah, I totally agree with Jayden. And yeah.
What are your wellness strategies to kind of keep you grounded day to day?
Honestly, for us, it's you know, it can be pretty crazy in production. You know, we can work 6 days a week. Sometimes we can work 21 days straight. You know, it can be really intense and really intensive. Even in post-production, you know, there can be crunch, which is a big thing, but it can be long hours. So I think for us, it's almost about planning respite and planning time off in our schedule and almost pre-booking that stuff. So instead of just taking advantage of a time where we don't book a gig, or we have, just happen to have open time. It's more about prioritizing, what are our family needs? What are our personal needs? When do we want to have downtime? And being mindful too of just, not filling our schedule too much, not having too many balls in the air. We found where, jugglers, you kind of find your juggle number, and we're kind of figuring out our juggle number. So we're, figuring out, yeah, maybe we're really good at 4 or 5, and we shouldn't try to get to 6 or 7, So, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is trying to plan, trying to make sure we just take care of ourselves. I think being active, those are things too, making sure that you have room in your schedule to, play sports, get outside, not be with a camera on your shoulder, not be slave to a computer, make sure that there's a life balance out there.
Jayden?
I've been, like, what I do is very intensive. I'm often solving problems more than I'm being creative. So I work in a lot of different software. I'm doing a lot of things that are very, very complex and challenging. And often that means I have to go and understand the software, why it's not working, and actually start to code a bit to break the software and make it do what I need it to do. So I find any given day, at the end of the day, I am completely mentally fried. And when I'm mentally fried, I'm physically fried. It kind of coincides, even though I've been sitting at a desk all day, I'm tired. So I started to instigate like daily routines around self-wellness and self-care. So in the morning, I just, I think it's important to have a routine where, like, you're doing something for you. For me, it's like I do in the morning before I get to work. This is for me. It's like, it's meditation, it's stretching, it's just like my own little routine. And then at the end of the day, often to like disconnect from the computer, I have to then just take 5 minutes, meditate, to like break away from the software head that I'm in. So it's been really important to almost compartmentalize my day. When I get here, I work very hard, and it's really all I'm doing, and I don't do anything else. But then when I'm here, I'm here. When I'm not here, I have to let it go. And it took me a long time to let it go, and to not think about work and not think about things. And I found the healthiest thing to do is to let the office go when you're away. And when you're here, be present and working hard. But when you're not here, don't be here. That's been really helpful for me. Yeah.
Sage advice, guys. Yukon's got this sort of safe 6 strategy that they've deployed to kind of help keep us safe, right? So keep your social bubble small and keep 6 feet away from anybody who's not part of it, and limit your travel, that sort of stuff. Which one are you guys finding the hardest to integrate into your life?
For me, it's keeping, we've had to manage our bubbles for physical production. So that one's been, it's been interesting, trying to not necessarily quarantine, but if I know I'm going to go into production with a group of people, well, then I need to prematurely, cut off my other bubbles and kind of isolate. So that's been hard to kind of migrate your bubble, so to speak. Yeah, that one's been a challenge for me.
Yeah, I think same here. It's I'm lucky because I'm mostly working in post-production. So XR is mostly on computers, but we do a lot of studio-based stuff. So today I was out testing the 360 camera at the studio with borealsoul, but we just had to keep a distance from each other. And if we keep working with them, obviously, wearing masks and being aware of distance, like, because they're their own bubble, but I'm not a part of that bubble. So I have to be just aware when I'm there of being really clean. Only I'm touching the camera, only I'm touching the stuff, like no one's allowed to touch it or come near it, which is also good practice in general, because if they break it, it's not a good thing. So it's like, you guys stay back, but it's been really just being aware of boundaries, right? And being like, you guys are over here, I'm over here. We're safe as long as we stick to these areas. And with 360, it's great. You set the camera up once, it's mostly choreography and performance. And so there's not a lot of lights and camera and stuff once it's set up. So it's quite safe to shoot during this time in our lives, actually. Yeah.
What are, we've been we went through a bit of a reset in the Yukon economy, or, globally, and we're sort of in this transition period. When we're looking ahead to what the Yukon economy is going to look like, what are your hopes and dreams for what that's going to be, your values for that?
As somebody who grew up here, was born and raised here, I'm lucky to have benefited from resource extraction. I'm from a multi-generation mining family. I think it's an important part of our economy, but I do think it's important for the Yukon to really diversify its economy. We are more than mining and more than tourism. Tourism's great, and I think there's a lot of room for tourism to grow, but I think there's a lot of places, tech sector, but looking all the amazing agriculture and food production that's coming out of the Yukon. So yeah, really having true diversification will help stabilize it, because certainly we've seen peaks and valleys with mineral prices. So yeah, that true diversification is great. Knowledge based, obviously, for us, seeing more film and television, I think there's a lot of room for our industry to grow and, contribute to job creation and all that kind of economic impact. So hopefully, yeah, we can keep growing through all this and yeah, get the economy back to where it needs to be.
Jayden, anything to add there?
I'll just second that. Yeah, I think diversifying the economy, we keep talking about that as a territory and as a government, and I don't think I've seen a lot of investment in diversifying aside from tech. But one thing that's been really clear to me is in the creative industries, when places in Canada, like the creative industries are exploding across Canada and across the world in some ways. We're seeing growth in every single province, but the Yukon isn't seeing a lot of growth comparative to other places in Canada. So I think there's a ton opportunity here for us to grow and really look at how we can increase capacity, increase infrastructure, and increase obviously capabilities locally. But with technology, the tech sector always saying the easiest way to proliferate technology and innovation, often in other places we've seen, is through the creative industries. These individuals are out there using the technology, they're sharing it, they're teaching, this wealth of knowledge exists, but they're very willing to share. And so I think if we want to grow our tech sector, one of the easiest ways to do that is through the creative industries, accessing this tech, using it. So for instance, for VR, I've been doing some VR training, and there's interest from people who are working in mining around how to use this technology to create accurate, models that we need on site, right? And some of the software I'm telling is not accurate right now, but there are the software that is. And so it's thinking differently, how do we model in VR rather than modeling in a computer in a normal way, right? In a normal screen-based. So as an artist, as a creative working in this field, I'm dabbling in all these things, and I can see this would work great for you guys, this wouldn't. So my hope is that the creative industries can grow the North's capabilities in terms of technology innovation. And that to me is makes the most sense. If we want to diversify into technology, use the creative industries as a way to start to basically proliferate that in the North. Yeah.
Do we have, if you're saying that there's growth across the country and the world in these sort of creative industries, and oftentimes that comes because you've got a boutique or niche opportunity within a local jurisdiction, what would that look like for the Yukon? Has that been defined? Is there opportunity there?
Yeah, I think like Jayden was alluding to in Saskatchewan and what we've kind of seen in a lot of places, specifically Vancouver and Toronto are kind of the bigger models, but usually when you lead with a certain type of production, so generally what's deemed service production, so production that comes in, so usually large film and television projects that don't originate in the country, so usually they're produced by usually US or foreign companies. And so they're just coming in, they're taking advantage of crews, they're taking advantage of locations and infrastructure. So when that type of production really builds to a larger capacity, it helps with infrastructure development, it helps with employment development. And so then that usually allows a space for, local production to grow, for, a broader range of artistic production and of ancillary production to kind of grow with it. So to me, that's kind of the first step, is if we can really look at a model and look at growing our service production, it can only take us a couple of small projects can really grow us by millions of dollars. It employs a lot of people. It helps us invest in infrastructure, and then those skills and capacities stay here, and that infrastructure stays here, and it allows locals to take advantage of that. So yeah, good, like Jayden said, a good example is Saskatchewan. They, were able to have a local series, Corner Gas, out of making film and television for America. They wound up creating dozens and dozens of jobs. I think, like Jayden said too, there are opportunities in kind of this emerging technology. So digital production is a possibility, that kind of integrates live visual effects, like Jayden said. A lot of these immersive things do have real world applications. So things like site visits, travel is a big issue right now. So virtual site visits can be a big thing. That can be an application for 360 that has applications in tourism and mining and a bunch of different sectors. like Jayden said, the experiential side of VR is a way that you can start to look at different data sets for different companies. So mining is one where you can experience their kind of ore deposits and things in a different environment than just looking at maps and graphs and charts and stuff. So yeah, there's new applications. It is really early on, so monetization is an interesting thing, but you know, the North, we're lucky we have funding options and, you know, opportunities. So
Any songs, podcasts, books, movies that you're getting you through this pandemic that you'd like to recommend?
Honestly, yeah, I don't listen. My podcasts, when I'm traveling, I listen to podcasts. Our company is really busy right now, so I'm just so focused on working and getting us. We have a couple deadlines coming up, and really important ones are we're doing something that our company has never done before, and the project we're working on will be the largest thing we've ever produced internally. So all my energy right now is going to that. But in terms of music, or you know, for me, at the end of the day, I'll watch The Office. I'll put on Michael Scott just to like come down from the day. He is my therapy actually right now. And so I use The Office like one episode a day just to kind of get me from the office, literally back to my house. So I'm using that quite a bit. And I've been listening to Woodkid. Has been inspiring me in terms of audio for our recent project. He's an artist, I think, out of France, but does incredibly beautiful kind of mixture of more cinematic music. So he's more melodic, but I've been loving his stuff, been listening to it in the car, and he's kind of inspiring me visually for the project. So yeah.
Cool.
I'm going to give a shout out to John from Dawson. He's a young kid from Dawson City that's doing some hip hop music. So I've been listening to him. You can find him on Spotify, John from Dawson.
John from Dawson,
and then,
that's the name?
A couple podcasts. Yeah, John from Dawson, that's his name. He's a young kid. Anyway, young kid doing rap and hip hop out of Dawson City. And then a couple podcasts. Spittin' Chicklets is a hockey podcast that I listen to. That's fairly well known. That one's pretty fun. Obviously, with hockey not happening, it's a little slow. Another one, actually, you know, shout out to Jenny Hamilton and Dan Bushnell with their, what is it, the Horse podcast. Yeah, that one's really good. I've been listening to that a little bit.
I enjoy that one too. It's great. There's been quite a few podcasts spinning up in the Yukon in the pandemic. It's been fantastic to get like that local content.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shout out to Brain Freeze podcast, Richard Eden and all those guys. Yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, guys, for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks,
for
Larry.
yeah.
Bye.
Bye.